Meidän superpäivä huipentuu seuraavaksi meidän Keynote-puheenvuoroon, eli otetaanpa sitten yhteys tonne Tanskaan. Elikkä, so Rebecca, amazing to have you with us today. You're going to talk about MAERSK and the future of B2B marketing. So the stage is yours now.
Thank you very much. Great to be here, and thanks for inviting me. I just like a quick introduction, and forgive me for not necessarily understanding the Finnish. I'm a Brit and therefore speak very few other languages. So my name is Rebecca Wright. I am head of digital sales, formerly head of marketing innovation here at MAERSK, where I have been for 4.5 years. I've been in business-to-business marketing for 25 years. And so I've come through a number of big changes in business-to-business marketing, from the days that we were excited about sending something that wasn't square through the post to using the channels that we have available to us today in B2B. So just moving on to the next slide. For B2B marketing, we have definitely moved in the period of time that I've been doing this job, and I'm sure for everybody else, in a complete rethink about who we're talking to. And it's really important in my mind that we have this at the center of our thinking as we build out our experiences that we're planning to deliver. We've moved from talking about businesses and the offices and the organizations that we're trying to market to becoming much more people focused. I'm a big believer in thinking that we actually are human to human marketing as opposed to B2B or even B2C. The reason this is so important is that actually we need to be able to engage with our audience and to know exactly, what are people thinking. And as I've explained, even within our own organization, MAERSK doesn't buy something, Becky at MAERSK does buy something. This kind of thinking has been accelerated with the COVID and in the last year. And as we see people who are working from home, and what you can't see behind me is that I'm in my spare bedroom today, is that you see people that the home and work has blurred, and therefore we're able to see people more as people rather than kind of corporate entities. The use of digital channels has blurred again between B2C and B2B. If you think back to things like LinkedIn, previously people would LinkedIn as a B2B channel, whereas actually most people use LinkedIn now as a B2C, but to express their own kind of professional experiences. And overall, people want to be treated like people. We all do. I want to be known that as Rebecca, who kind of actually has quite a relaxed way of doing business, as opposed to some of my colleagues who prefer a much more formal approach. If you treated me very formally, I would feel very defensive. And therefore, it's very important that we actually understand who it is and how they want to engage. This also comes into building a brand. If you go into brand marketing and how we deliver those things, we're not talking to a factory about a factory. We're talking about trying to get emotional engagement with who we are and what we're trying to sell. And building a brand builds loyalty. And therefore, as much as I'm a big Apple user and will buy Apple for almost any cost, it seems, and they know that, I want people to be able to buy from MAERSK because they believe in the brand and what we offer. And I can only do that if what I offer resonates with you as a human being. And like this, personalization drives loyalty. The way that we engage, the way that the information that we need to make decisions, the timing of those engagements, all are personal. And the use of data and the use of all of the channels to be able to create that personal experience, regardless of who I am in MAERSK. We know we want to sell to MAERSK, but we may want to sell to different people. The loyalty is driven through personalization and the engagement with the brand. So on to the next slide. So basically, my big belief is actually, how does the future feel for our customers? How can we change the way that they think about us as a business, rather than and me as an individual selling to them, as opposed to MAERSK and the perception they have, and in your cases, your businesses and the perception they have? How do we make them feel more personal? So the next slide. So how do we get there? To get there, we really need to understand that the key differences in the way that we have engaged in the past and the way that we want to engage in the future. So on to the next slide, please. So here you can have a look at basically my view of what we have been very good at doing as business-to-business marketeers and where we need to move to in the future to be truly successful. For example, I really think that we have moved away from these annual performance plans. And I imagine that, like me, you're often asked in the budgeting process, usually at the end of your financial year, what do you want to spend for next year and how well did you do last year? Like many of our sales colleagues, we're no longer capable of just saying, actually, last year I can tell you everything I did and everything that was done and successful, and therefore I need to add 10% for next year. It comes down to actually that we need to start planning our own activities based on performance. And to do that, we need to be much closer to the data that we have in hand. We need to understand who our audience is and clearly define that. A case that we're going through right now in the business I'm in is that we want to continue to grow, but we don't want to grow for the sake of growth. We want to grow with the right audience. And therefore, if we grow with the wrong audience, we'll actually be delivering the wrong outcomes for MAERSK. We will become very price focused, very commodity driven, as opposed to creating a differentiated experience for our customers and therefore moving away from being a commodity price conversation. We can only do this if we try to understand how we're doing as we move along. So setting our objectives and having clear measurables against those objectives so we can adjust our activity along the way. So to that mind, no longer producing campaigns and activities based on product targets and innovation. I'm sure that MAERSK is not alone, but as we have moved from being an ocean carrier and more into a logistics business, we have recognized that actually we need to become, again, much more customer focused. And this for me has been a big change as in a B2B market over the last 10 years in particular. We've gone away from what do I have to sell? Let me find a market for it, to who am I selling to and what it is that they need. The outcome that we're trying to drive is the same. We're still clearly trying to sell as much as we can to as many people as we need to. But we need to actually understand actually what is going to be the driver for different people. And we regularly come back to the sales funnel or the customer engagement funnel, where you move from awareness through perception into engagement and finally conversion, and understand that we need to plan activities at each stage of those stages of the funnel for the people who are in them at the time. And unfortunately, we don't all act the same because we're human beings, not kind of this synonymous business. And therefore, I could be in a funnel with 10 of my peers, and we can be in different places, and different things are going to trigger us to move to the next stage. And we need to be we could be in those 10 places at the same time. And therefore, it's around engaging our customers at the right moment in time for them with a value proposition and a message that resonates with them in a channel that comes there, and can be all at different starting points. So gone are the days, in my opinion, that we can actually go back and say, this year I'll be running a campaign from July until September, and I expect the outcome to be X. To that end, so this mass simultaneous marketing communication has gone. We are moving, even with our brand marketing that we do today, and I hope many of you have seen some of the videos that we've been putting out, which are very un-MAERSK-like in the last 12 months. We've been moving away from, again, even those mass communications to personal experience driven by data. We have so much data in our business, and I believe every business has a lot of data to be making the most of today. And it's around actually how do you use that data to define your audience, to find the moments in time, and to understand what triggers somebody to move from one stage to the next. We talked about, again, amongst my peers, an example of those of us who do Amazon shopping, and the 2 or 3 of us in MAERSK who are keen runners. Now, I'm a pretty kind of fast decision maker in many cases, particularly when it comes to spending money. And I like to be able to say, I've seen a pair of trainers, I like them, I like the color, I'm going to buy them now. I want immediate response. Another of my colleagues who also buys from Amazon and is also a keen runner actually likes to be able to kind of ponder it and likes to do some research in the evenings during the week, but makes his final decision at 5 o'clock or 7 o'clock on a Friday evening whilst preparing for his Saturday run. In those cases, if you sent us both the information about buy now at the same time, it would miss him completely or miss me completely. And therefore, we need to be able to kind of create a personalized feeling that actually is tailored for you. I have this ambition that when we talk about B2B marketing, we always talk about our websites and how they are core to our business and become an information hub, which I truly believe in. But I would love that actually every business-to-business website feels that it's designed for the one person who's reading it at the time. I've spent a lot of time doing website design and working with UX designers. And we spend so much time looking at navigation and looking at how do people move through the website. Whereas my ambition is that we start to see a website that feels like it has only one page and is built for me when I see it. And that takes us on to moving that traditionally there has been marketing and there has been sales. And more, I believe in B2B, as it is in B2C today, that the line between marketing and sales is blurring. It shouldn't matter whether or not I want to buy from a paid search or a digital click of an advert, as opposed to speaking to somebody on the phone or walking into a shop. The ambition and the outcomes are all the same. And therefore, we need to basically have much closer alignment in terms of the outcome we're trying to drive and letting the customers, in many cases, choose which channel they want to be able to do that purchase through, whether it's a website or an advert online or a person or in a shop physically. And to do that, it goes back to driving that data, understanding who our customers are, making sure that we experience the things that we want to in the right channel. And often, even though I'm a huge proponent of the website, actually doing business in the channel where the customer already is. You're probably familiar with a lot of the airlines, for example. I know KLM, when people are flying, which we're clearly not today, they do a lot of work through WhatsApp, through Facebook Messenger, or you can go to the KLM website and you choose. I have been a KLM user because I have half of my team based in The Hague, as well as me working in Copenhagen. And therefore, I spent a lot of time, I have spent a lot of time in the last 18 months on KLM flights and in the different airports. What I love about it is that I get contacted through WhatsApp because that's my preferred channel. I never have to go to the KLM website to make a change to my booking, to actually do something else. I can do all where I am comfortable. That is a business recognizing that they're not selling to me, they are actually selling to MAERSK. But once they have sold their deal to MAERSK, it is me who makes the decision to buy and the actual person kind of experiencing the product at the time, in the moment in time. And then finally, this view of, it comes back to the reporting, to the performance marketing. I don't think we can rely on time lag reporting for campaigns. I don't think enough time is spent generally in marketing, but particularly in B2B marketing, doing retrospectives. And I've been doing a lot of work in the last couple of years, working very closely with our product teams in one part of the business. And I've really learned to use the agile methodology. And I believe that more and more we will move in B2B marketing into this way of thinking. And therefore, basically running a campaign or an activity and then analyzing its performance 2 or 3 months after the fact is no longer successful. You wouldn't see a successful salesperson basically waiting to the end of the quarter to find out whether or not they have been paid their incentive based on performance. We need near real-time control tower-like views of what we're doing to help us make faster decisions, to make changes in our media plans, to make changes in our messaging, even whether that is even down to subject lines of emails that you can see aren't getting the open rates you're looking for, to your cost per acquisition through pay-per-click. All of this needs to be done as close to real time as possible. I had a bit of an eye-opener a couple of years ago when I was talking to our data team and I said, I want things in real time. And I genuinely meant the same day, thinking that we were going to be super fast. And those data engineers were saying, do you mean in nanoseconds? Now, today, I don't think we need something in nanoseconds for our marketing, but I do think we need something within an hour to be able to help us make our decisions. In the same way that if a salesperson is on the phone or having that conversation with a customer, they're able to adjust their conversation in real time. If the customer's clearly sitting with their arms back and not looking interested, they no longer can continue that line of approach. And we need to read the same signals from our customers in marketing, whether that's again through digital channels or more physical channels, to be able to address that and make the changes very, very fast. And then give that feedback also to our product. And for us, product is what we sell and the platform is how we sell it into those innovation teams so that they can also adjust the experiences that they have. So overall, I believe that actually the key for business-to-business marketing moving forward is clearly understanding who our audience is. And we've spent a lot of time, I don't believe any B2B marketeer doesn't know who their audience is, but actually dividing that down and making the audiences smaller and smaller so that you actually feel that you are talking to a human being, whilst getting scale to that so that we can still do marketing, which is more of a mass communication anyway. I believe that the lines blurring between sales and marketing will become more and more blurred and more like they are in B2C and e-commerce, particularly as we move more into online and an online experience. And I actually believe that that COVID has accelerated this as a principle. I can't speak for Finland, but for many of the countries that we deal with around the world, when we were talking this time last year, and I'm responsible for, say, driving a lot of digital engagement with our customers, there was a big resistance to customers moving online. In Germany, for example, even though that they were buying into a self-serve product, they still wouldn't use it for the first time unless somebody went face-to-face and had a demo with them. By June last year, we were already at the stage where somebody was saying, okay, I can do an online demo, I accept that. And then by November last year, it was actually the fastest market for us to move straight into full digital sales and through an e-com type experience. So I don't think that human contact is gone away. I just believe that actually the more personal we can make that moving forward, the better. And to that end, I believe that the role of marketing and into sales will also continue to change. When I first joined MAERSK almost 5 years ago, marketing was known, and as it is in many B2B, as the people who bought the gifts and organize the events. Now we are seen as the people who drive performance and who know where to invest and where to make some time. We're moving into an era where we use the same data to trigger an email or an advert to actually drive a sales engagement with a person. So even where we have human-led sales engagement, we're still using data and the marketing information to trigger that sales event. So rather than saying, I will call you every Tuesday, it's now, I will call you when the data shows me you're ready for a call. You're more likely to be able to close that sale. So again, bringing data into the conversation, regardless of the channel, will be key moving forward. And then overall, there will be a greater focus on innovation and experimentation. As I said, I've been using or moving towards and becoming a big advocate of the agile way of working, which is a very tech way of working. It allows you to make quick decisions, make changes, and understand the outcomes we're trying to drive very quickly. A big part of that, and the reason I love it so much, is because it allows you to experiment, to test, and to fail. And the more you can get comfortable with failure, the better we will be at marketing. We invest and choose to invest quite a lot of money, particularly when you're looking at brand advertising, but you need to be able to be comfortable with that not working and making fast changes. Which leads us on to the kind of 5 golden rules that I believe that are important for business marketing in the future. So taking a look at the next slide. To be successful, in my mind, and again, this is an area I'm happy to be proven wrong, and would love to hear your thoughts. I believe that we need to move into fully automated digital experiences for our customers, even B2B. And by which I don't mean that everything will happen online. I just believe that digital needs to be first so that we can use the data to drive better engagements, to drive us to being personalized. And therefore personalization at an individual level based on preferences. So you start to combine what we want to sell to who the company is and what their parameters are, to the individual that's making the decision or using your product as a seamless way of working. And therefore, every engagement that we have needs to be relevant and driven by real-time data. And this I do mean real-time. I would love to get to the stage, and we are working on it in MAERSK, but we're still a long way off it. So if anyone has experienced this, I would love to hear from you again, of basically saying that actually if somebody is on the phone to a customer service rep and asking questions or making a comment about a need that they have that we could solve, by the time that call is done with real-time listening, with sentiment understanding and other technology, to be able to then say when the time the customer service agent says come back to our website, that website reflects that conversation. So as an example, we have a product out there today which is actually kind of changing the way that people do logistics and changing the pricing methodology. And if a customer is on the phone saying, but I don't understand why my goods haven't got there, I need some guarantee from you, we have a product available today that does guarantee it. It's just slightly premium priced. And therefore, we like to say, actually, if you could go and investigate that service, rather than me giving you a link or telling you what to do, we say, come back to maersk.com. And the first piece of information you see reflects the need that you have and how we can solve it. You will feel that the company is listening to you, literally and metaphorically. And for me, this muscle the building the muscle to experiment, to test, learn, and fail. Much is talked about the ability to learn to be comfortable with failing, but as a human being, we are not. Over time, I think we get more comfortable with it, and we need to build this thick skin and the capability to talk about our failures. I can honestly say for myself, I often say that I'm collaborating and I want to share with people with my failures, but I always try and build a story where I've said I did fail, but now I've succeeded and yay, go me. And actually what I want to be able to do is to be far more open to say, I'm not sure I even understood the question. And therefore to be a good marketeer, in my view, let alone a good B2B marketeer, we need to be more open to actually understanding that marketing is not a unique silo within the business and to be able to learn and experiment fast. Within our business, we have lots of divisions. As I said, we have a product team, we have a platform team who look after the technology and how we engage with our customer. We have a sales teams and we have marketing teams and customer service teams and many different people who all impact how the customer engages with us and how they feel about us. And therefore, it's very, very important that we have collaboration and alignment between us so that we don't feel that actually I can sell you one message through marketing and it changes a bit when the salesperson talks to you, and by the time you come to make your purchase, it is completely different again. Or even as something I found this morning where we had changed the marketing message to reflect a current market situation in our advertising, but when someone came to our website, we were still using the old message, and that's within the same team. People need to see that actually it's okay to fail, but you can find that and learn fast, and you can share those failings so you can learn from them better. And finally, I cannot emphasize enough, in my opinion, the power of data, both to manage performance, to decide the next best action, and to really get those learnings in place. We start all of our engagements with customer insights, and I have an amazing customer insights team who I depend on a lot. What customers tell them and how customers behave are often very, very different. And therefore, we need to combine both the customer insight and the data insight together to figure out whether or not we are addressing the right customer in the right way at the right time, and what can we do next. And with that, that's all. I would love to learn from you.
Great. Thank you so much, Rebecca. So we have here a few questions. So first of all, do you drive marketing centrally from Europe? And the other question, how do you manage and scale up the marketing campaigns globally?
Great questions. We have, in our marketing community, we have around 100 people around the world. We have a head office here in Europe with Global. And what we are starting to do is when we try something new, particularly as we're moving now into this digital in sales engagement, we actually build the frameworks globally and we do a lot of the tests globally. We then scale those out around the world. But a key learning that I had in the last year as I was trying to do more and more of this for small customers is actually you can understand what the framework is and what you should be doing, but until you get able to understand at a local level, it's almost impossible to succeed. Whether that is translations into another language, and I think just translations are not good enough. Again, we need to get more personal, we need trans creations. So actually making the message more local itself or making it resonate at a local level. And therefore you need great customer insight at a local level. And you also need to insight into the channels and how things work. So for me, this year, we will start to build, we have a really good, we have 6 regions in MAERSK, and each of those regions has its own marketing team. And to my mind, we need to work more closely, not to give them the campaigns to execute, but to get the input to develop the campaigns and the planning to begin with. So we have a much closer, much shorter planning cycle, but involving the local areas and the local teams so that we can build something that they can execute successfully.
Thank you. Then another question. So you mentioned that you want to grow by selecting the right customers. So how do you then select your target audience? Are you using some tools for that, or how is that happening?
Yes. So we look at a lot of market intelligence. So we try to find what the addressable market is, particularly as we move into customers that we have not traditionally served in MAERSK. And therefore, we use media tools. So we have a media planning agency, Havas, based out of London. And I would recommend as you get that you we've built a very close relationship with this agency so that we share with them all of our ambition and our data. And we also explain to them what our existing customer profile looks and where we want to change. And we use their analytics to actually help us define where we can find that audience and what the audience is, translating our own segmentation into real life segmentation. And then we spend time looking at the behaviors of customers. So we find what we would describe as our typical ideal customer. And then we go back and look at their sentiment and understand how they behave and what is likely to impact their decisions to address those. It's a fairly long process, but it gets faster and faster once you have, again, going back to that being comfortable with iteration and not being afraid of failure, is that you build out what looks to be correct to begin with. You test it on it in enough scale to get good learnings and some good traffic, and then we continue to refine that audience as we move on. So to my mind, our actual target audiences, we have many more targets, but each target is much smaller so that we can become personal and relevant.
Thank you. And then actually, this is a question from me, but I was very pleased when I heard about the role of marketing in your organization and how it has changed. So I would be very curious to hear that. Could you share some learnings and experiences how marketing has moved from ordering gift to a strategic function?
Sometimes just being a bit loud and being very persuasive. But the key to it, I think it comes back to being able to demonstrate value and being able to demonstrate relevance. So when I first joined, and it wasn't much different into teams that I'd come from, was actually marketing was seen as a sales support function. And it's because marketing has struggled in the past to demonstrate how it makes money. And whilst not all marketing activity goes direct to a sale, there is a lot of activity that you show that you can attribute towards a sale, that you can improve the sales conversation with the marketing efforts, but also that actually customers don't operate on a very linear way. So even if you do brand marketing to create awareness and then sell a perception of the offer, if it goes to a salesperson, it doesn't often naturally result in a first sale. And what we do today is we then take that customer back into a marketing environment and we continue to nurture them over time so that the next time they speak to a salesperson, we can A, give them information about what they're likely to buy, and B, give them back to a salesperson at a time when they're most likely to buy. An example of this is if you look at for our business, we go through a lot of kind of tenders, and there's a very big tendering culture in logistics. Obviously, I'd love to say that we win all the tenders that we approach, but clearly that's not the case, because if that was true, we would be magic. But we often, as we lose tenders, there is a view that actually you should stay away from that customer because they're not going to buy something from you for the next year. But actually, the very, very best time to start remarketing to them is about a month or two after the tender's taken place, we've learned. So at the point when the customer is kind of perhaps struggling a little bit with a change of supplier or putting a new solution in place, that actually they become a little bit, was it the right decision? And you can pick up on that sort of that buyer need for reassurance, and actually say, I hope it's going well for you, but actually now is the time to start talking about and thinking about for the future. And so while sales has a much more immediate need, marketing can create an emotional engagement with the customer through content, through very, very strong messaging, and through being there at the right time so that the next time a sales conversation happens, it is more valuable. And it's by demonstrating that value and the ability to measure a return on marketing investment, whether it is a direct sale or more engagement or more qualified marketing leads, that you increase the value and the perception of marketing within an organization.
Thanks. You talked about the sales and marketing alignment. So how your sales and marketing teams then work together on a daily basis?
So we, when I first joined MAERSK, there was sales and marketing actually had the same reporting line. So we reported into the same vice president. As we wanted to actually build marketing out and grow its strengths, the company decided to separate us for a while. So for 3.5 years, we were separate functions, having two different reporting lines. what that enabled us to do was to really go and build the marketing capabilities without a big eye over us all of the time. But actually in the spring of last year, we decided that it's time had come to put sales and marketing back into the same organization. We now have one senior VP who we all report to. And doing so, we actually have we have the shared objectives and the shared outcomes. And so in doing so, we've now realigned our marketing team so that we align to the sales organization and the sales teams, but not as a sales support function, which is where we were 5 years ago, but more into we call it mutual coexistence. So by sharing the same targets and the same performance metrics, we drive towards the same goal. It is no longer acceptable to say it is marketing's job to send X number of emails or to spend X amount of money every year. My team carries the same sales target as the salespeople we work with. We have the same performance goals, and if I can close a sale through marketing, or I can give a better qualified lead from one of my sales colleagues to close the deal, we actually both win together. We are moving away from individual performance targets to team performance targets, and that's also how we get paid our bonuses. So therefore, we get a much better collaboration, a much faster feedback. I often have salespeople coming to me saying, I don't like the messaging. So what you can see behind me is a new way of us communicating with our customers. But we got this feedback from our salespeople who talk to customers day to day. Whilst we do digital conversion and we can look at behaviors, we can get some ad hoc feedback from our salespeople in the front line to say, this is what they liked, this is what they understood from the messaging, this is what worked and what didn't work. And as a result, we're able to change much faster. So I actually do performance data weekly with sales to talk about what we have done and how we see the contribution, how they have seen it, looking at the quality of leads that we produce, looking at the number of bookings and conversions that we have made together from all sources, and then deciding actually where to invest our time and money next so that we are equally accountable for the outcome that we deliver.
Super interesting. And then actually we have here one question regarding data. The question is that is in B2B same kind of resistance towards the use of data of people's personal digital behavior than in B2C? I mean that people sometimes feel uncomfortable when companies know too much about them. So what do you think about that?
It's a very good question. And I often get asked when I talk about personalization about how personal is too personal, and that you have to go to. So I think more and more with GDPR and the cookie regulations and other data protection that's in place, which is all very good. It's moved much more quickly into B2B in the B2B environment than it did into B2C. However, I think the key to think about is actually if you have something to offer of value to a customer, in exchange for their data, as we would do in exchange for money in often cases, that people feel willing to share. I think in my view, the amount of protection that there is around the data today is probably a little too much. I think it will soften again over time. And that's simply because people understand, as you do with Google, if you withhold all your data from Google, you can still use the Google tools, but you don't get the value. I have zero sense of direction. I use Google Maps for all of my guidance all of the time. But to do so, I need to release some data to Google to begin with about me. I have to have the trust that it's not being misused. And therefore, to build that trust, it takes some time. And to eliminate that trust takes a second. So if you are seen to misuse data or to overuse your kind of what you know about somebody, then that trust gets eroded very, very quickly. But I think on the whole, and again, depending on the audience you're trying to target and their demographics and their age groups, people are fairly comfortable hiding a little bit behind their company and making themselves kind of known to you as an individual within a company and less so on a personal level. I think it becomes different and harder because when you start looking at smaller companies that we're trying to address. So a lot of my target audience is actually looking at SME customers, kind of sole traders, people who are setting up their own business who are very entrepreneurial. And for them, their personal data and their business data is the same. And therefore, the key to it is actually ensuring that we demonstrate how we're going to use it, we show some value to having that data and exchange for that data. So we never ask for any data we don't need, even though it would be, I think I could look at ways and see how it might be useful. And as I need it at the time, we never ask for it. We talk openly around how we use data and what we use it for. And therefore, we offer people the chance to give us their data when we can, but also explain to them what will happen if we don't have their data. We make a very clear pitch about asking for consent and making sure that we use it correctly. I'm currently in a session this morning around the new cookie principles that are coming into place primarily in Denmark, but then across Europe as a new directive, and how that will impact web retargeting and advertising in the future. And there are always ways around it, but you also have to be totally open and transparent. And I think that's the key that has worked very, very well in B2C that needs to come across in B2B, is the transparency with how you're going to use the information that you have and to use it wisely.
Thanks. Actually, one more question still. So how is marketing measured at MAERSK, and what are the main KPIs?
So it depends where you are in the funnel. So the main KPIs that we have, so we have almost two elements of business. We have the business, the segments that we look after that we know are very people-led. The sales that we make to those customers are very complex, that they're part of the full supply chain management. There, the marketing is measured by engagement and by the number of leads, qualified leads that we present to our customers. And so you start to use metrics more based on attribution to the sale rather than the sale itself. And then on the other side of the business, and the area that I'm more associated with today, is where actually marketing is driving the sales. And there we look at return on marketing investment in terms of revenue booked from a marketing performance. And so we spend a lot of time building the tracking capability through all of the marketing campaigns to know, for example, whether by sending an email to somebody who's going to go to a person, like how much did that email or the content of that email influence the sale, by looking at the conversation that the salespeople had, versus on the other side, on the more transactional side, to actually say how long between last click and the booking was there. So actually, therefore, looking at the attribution that way. So more and more, we are using revenue as a metric. But we are also doing the full process that people are probably familiar with marketing qualified leads, sales accepted leads, and the amount of business done by customers who marketing have engaged with.
Great. So thank you, Rebecca, for this very inspiring presentation. We wish you all the best for the year 2021. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.